see it's working.
All right, everybody. We're doing kind of a mid-time after-action report for Suarez International's rifle gunfighting class. We actually just came back from dinner with the guys. A little bit of debriefing, having some fun. We attempted to do this video previously to go into dinner, and I guess because of audio, video, technicalities, some issues.
He's not as smart as he thinks he is.
Exactly. We're going to have to redo it. So, what we want to do is talk about not only what we learned today, everything that we did, but also talk about the gear that we were using, what worked, what didn't work, what we liked, what we didn't like. So we'll kind of start out with the class. This is not my first time doing a Suarez International class. I did close gun range fighting pistol, but this is my first true intermediate to advanced class as far as rifle. And Chop, what about you as far as classes?
Just front sight, the 4-day defensive handgun. So other than that, it's just leeching off of the guys at the store.
Okay, so this is your first rifle class. All right. You know, my first take of the class was, you know, I was going in, I wasn't nervous. I'd done classes before, and part of me was thinking, well, man, should I be nervous since I've never really done a rifle class? I did take a Larry Vickers basic carbine class, which was a great class. Stoney Smith was the instructor. He is a Vickers regional instructor. Great guy. Hope to take a couple more classes with him when he comes back from, I believe he's in South Africa, I think. But other than just a basic one, this is kind of a first gunfighting class that I had ever taken as far as rifles concerned. And, you know, like I said, I wasn't nervous, I wasn't anxious, but it was one of those that's kind of like, what do I expect? Because, again, I'd never taken an intermediate class. And what I got to say, at least for the first day of the class, we really focused on fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And that was good. And I think it was great, one, for the students. And it wasn't a fundamentals where we really broke it down so slow that we were just kind of sitting there like, okay, I'm above this. Mm-hmm. You know, we went at a pace fast enough for us to go through the fundamentals within the first day, but slow enough for the instructor to really see where we are and kind of get a baseline for the next day. So, you know, Chop, what did you take away from the first day of the class?
Well, for starters, you never have your gear set away as much as you think you do, because you learn that real quick. This isn't static shooting. Granted, we didn't do too much dynamic today, but it was outside of a range, so that's kind of a different element in its own. And like you said, I mean, like he kept reiterating to us that some of the stuff we were doing was basics, but stacking on tomorrow's stuff, you know. So for one that hasn't done any kind of rifle class, and I am, you know, my personality, I get anxious and nervous anyways, just because it's new and I kind of want to make sure I'm not the goofball in the group and whatever, which that doesn't help.
Right.
So, I mean, other than that, you know, with the layering of the stuff, and from a lot of what I've heard from, you know, your classes previous, Dan, you know, talking about different SI classes, it seems like their core thing is it's the fundamentals done better than, you know, the first time.
Right.
So it's like, not perfected fundamentals, but the base is, here's the fundamentals, we're just going to find ways to get it better and better and better. So that, I think, helped to ease the comfort level, like with me being in there and not knowing, you know, never taking a rifle class. You can't say you know rifle because you built it. I mean, it's, you know, you can slap pieces of metal together, but when we were going through, it started showing me this was wrong, this is right. Just, and ways of looking at it different, because it was handgun versus rifle, you know, and the transition drills that we did today as far as from left to right, and our weak to strong, and it just, stuff you don't even think about until somebody put it in front of me, you know, and then to realize when I walked out of there, it's like, I was scared to death to do it because I didn't know how to do it, and now I'm like, okay, I kind of got this, not whoop, but I got it, you know.
Right.
So what does tomorrow got? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point. One of the things, you know, I tell a lot of people in the shop, and a lot of, you know, I get a lot of students, I get a lot of customers that come in and ask us, and, you know, you being at the shop, you get it too, and that is, you know, well, what are you running on your rifle? What kind of sling? What kind of optics? you know, and it's hard to really pinpoint what the best is, because what may work for me may not work for you, whether it's the type of weapon system that we're using, because it's different. You know, everything from caliber wise to size of the, you know, overall length of the rifle. And what I try to explain to, you know, both my students and our customers, and that is, you know, optics and accessories are very much like holsters. You're going to have a lot of things, and what works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. I mean, obviously you can see us, we're big guys, so there are certain things that, you know, may work well for other body types that doesn't work well for us, and you don't know that until you take classes like these, because then you take the gear that either you read on the forums, you read on the internet, you looked at reviews, you asked all your buddies, you know, you go to the gun shops and you ask them. But it's not until you take these classes that you really realize, does it make sense for you? Does it work for your weapon system? And then again, and you helped me this on the way here, the applicability or applicability, however you want to say it, tomato, tomato. But it doesn't make sense. Just because you can get the gear and it serves its purpose doesn't mean that it serves the purpose that you are going to have. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. In the first part is really what gear do we run and what do we learn? I mean, you talked about the transition drills, and I learned how important a sling is, you know, in the transition drills. One of the things that I learned today from Don Robinson of Suarez International, great instructor, taking, it's my second class with him, going to do a third one in November. But one of the things I learned, which I didn't know, is, you know, that I'm running an adjustable 2-point sling. Right? I've got a Larry Vickers sling. There were a couple others out there like that. Some guys were running a single point sling with their rifles, whether it be we had a 7.5 inch SBR. You know, I ran my 10.5. You had a traditional 16. And some it worked well for them, and some it didn't. And I found the adjustability of mine actually was perfect. But we got into the transition drills. And at that point, you really started looking at, well, what's the overall length of the sling?
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you move it out, I mean, how, you know, does it work well or does it not? And I mean, even, you know, Don Robertson, the instructor, I mean, you know, he went through and he basically built his slings out of, you know, items that he had.
Nylon, he said, strap.
Yeah. You know, so what I want to do is we're going to talk about a little bit about some of the gear and inside of the class, you know, did it work well, did it not work well? So, I mean, the first point, as I mentioned, is, you know, I used a Larry Vickers sling. So I had a 2-point adjustable sling. So, you know, I don't know how well the lighting is going to be, but basically this was the SBR that I run. Obviously, people who are at the shop, they know this is the Archangel prototype. You know, hopefully we'll get it out by the end of this year, but, you know, God willing. It is chambers open, it's empty, so guys, please don't post any comments about unmuzzling or need to check the, you know, the chamber and all, because it's open, there's nothing in it. But basically what I was running was a Larry Vickers, you know, combat adjustable sling. And I had learned what it was called a 2-point fixed or a 2-point adjustable. And what's nice about it is the adjustments were basically made by pulling on essentially one of the straps, you know. I mean, it was just an easy tool to use and chop. I mean, what kind of a sling were you running?
I got the Magpul MS3 sling with, I believe it's the RSVP mounting plate for the rear. We get back to the shop, we'll be removing that and finding something else. Kind of like you were saying, going through the drills, not even the transition drills, but just with your charging handle. Going back to the difference between what we're doing and static shooting. You know, you can sit in there in the stall, you know, pull your charging hammer, you're not really engaging your sling in there anyhow, and you'll never have a problem once. Right. I had problem after problem today getting the gun in my workspace, trying to run the charging handle, and here's my sling mount right in my way. So we'll be removing that and going something to the rear of the buttstock. The other thing too is, like, one of the comments that he had made is the length of it. Some of the SBRs, and even with my rifle being it's a regular 16-inch Rock River, when you sling those rifles, they either beat in the back of your legs, beat in the back of your backside, front side, whatever. You know, you got to find that happy medium, and it's going to be different for everybody because everybody's different. So
yeah, I know in the last class, like I said, I'd taken it was actually a combo class, a Larry Vickers combo class, pistol and then rifle. And one of the things that looked cool and it was all over the forums and was easy. And again, I was running an SBR, same one, and that was a single point sling. And I learned in the first 10 minutes of class that I'm never running a single point sling again, because basically my rifle, every time I would go to put it down, it whacked my jump, and then it just did the length of it just didn't work.
Right.
Which is why I quickly went to a 2-point sling, whether it be fixed or adjustable, but went to a 2-point sling. So again, it's just like holsters. You don't realize whether the items that you're getting work for, again, the scenario that you're training for, the purpose of the class, and then your purpose, the overall purpose yourself.
I mean, 'cause I know I've owned Black Hawk Storm
Yeah.
sling, the bungees. I can see where a bungee will not work in this application.
Yeah.
But some people probably do. I don't know, with the pistols and they do the push out.
Or the sub guns. Yep.
That'd be great, but on a regular rifle, doing something like this, I could see that play. These things got to be rigid. You know what I mean? And as far as the adjustability is fine, but if it's got play too, I can see that just being a pain in the butt.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is I mentioned, in the industry, we talked about this at dinner, nobody really wants to bash any instructor. They don't, we believe it's like you had mentioned, it's, the student of the gun, and say what you want about Suarez International. I've taken classes from, Larry Vickers, Stoney Smith. I've taken Randy Kane's class, wonderful class. Especially for first-time, shooters, people that want to get wet. It's a great class other than the classes that we teach, so shameless plug. UrbanSoldiersDynamic.com, Facebook.com/UrbanSoldiersDynamic. I know it's shameless, but I gotta do it. You say certain instructors, but in the industry, there's a lot of egos, and again, say what you want about Suarez or about Chris Costa for Jeff, blah, 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 blah. So, sorry, we love you, Chris Baden. But, say what you want about all the different instructors. One of the things we talked about at dinner was, as a student, you're going to take different things from different instructors. And I use the analogy of a toolbox. You got a toolbox and you put all these tools in the toolbox so that you have it in the back of your mind that if at any point you get into a certain situation, whether you utilize that all the time because you liked that strategy, or you don't utilize it but it works for the specific incident you're in, you have this toolbox that you can grab that tool and use it, again, maybe not to the best of your ability, maybe not so flawless, but at the same time you are able to utilize it. And again, kudos to Suarez, SI. Again, they don't teach that their process is the only process and their way is the only way. It is a way. Take with it what you want, and then adapt it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work for you.
Well, like you said in dinner, take it in for the length of the class and brain dump what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Right.
And I was like, this is coming from the guy instructing us, and I was like, yeah, it's different being on our side of the coin and walking in, and you already have that in the back of your mind. Is like, okay, some of this stuff I know I'm not going to agree with, but to even have the instructor say, look, I know there's going to be stuff that not going to be yours,
right,
and what have you. So I mean, I've loved it so far because there's a camaraderie, and as much as like you said, and it comes with the business, there's the ego part of it, but everybody's there to help each other. Some of these guys came from Miami, what have you, down that way, and everybody's, hey, you need help with that, you need this, you need that, and I like that. And I think that's a lot of what we do at the shop also is like, if somebody wants to test drive something and we got it strapped to our hip, here it is, because I'd rather somebody have an informed decision versus, just buying something and not.
Right.
Same difference with the class, you go out there and I bought my Rock River because everybody's buying ARs, the first go around with the President stuff in it. I bought a Rock River because it was affordable, and then we built ours,
yep.
And you could see off the shelf, get it done, and you can see, if you got the time and the money, you can build something of your own, or what have you, but they all work.
Exactly. And going on that same theme, talking about what worked and what didn't work, you know, in class we saw an array of optics, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about most of the drills today were 25 yards and in, and we spent very little time at 25 yards. It was more in the 7, 10, and 15, which again, what's the scenario? Here we are, we're essentially civilians, we're using this as a defensive weapon. And again, say what you want about using a rifle or a carbine as a defensive weapon versus a pistol. You know, we all know, and you can look up as much information and statistics as you want, we all know pistol calibers are anemic. And the only reason that you have a pistol is because it's easy to carry, it's easy to conceal, and you don't necessarily have the ability to take your rifle with you. But you know, in as far as home defense, a lot of times you talk to guys that have long guns, your pistol is basically your way to get to your long gun.
Well, I think what was the term he used, energy dump.
Yeah.
You know, you take the 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, however you train, whatever. Well, you do that with a rifle, and that's just a whole lot. I mean, you're getting hit with a Yugo, and you're getting hit by a Mack truck as far as power goes. So it's,
800 feet per second versus 3,000 feet per second is a big difference. So, you know, one of the things that we had saw was, you know, again, the different optics. Everybody was running primarily a red dot of some sort. You had traditional aim point red dots. You had RMRs, Trijicon RMRs, which a lot of guys, especially myself, we run them on a pistol, right? We're not any younger. We're not getting any younger. And for me, looking at a target, even at 25 yards, you know, I know I'm hitting somewhere on the target, but sometimes that dot does help with placement. We had a few guys running variable scopes, and I know we were talking earlier when we did the first take of this video, and I want you to talk about that again, and that was, you know, with the one drill we did,
mayhem.
Yeah, the mayhem drill, having to go and use other people's rifles with their optics. For me, you know, on my gun, just to give you an example, you know, I'm running a True Glow red dot, which is basically like a aim point. It's you know, true red dot. This one has 2 colors, a green and a red, and you know, it's like Christmas. But I use the red because that's the traditional one that they have as far as color. Comes with a low mount and high mount. Dollar-wise, I think they're like under $200. We usually have them at the shop. Family Firearms, another shameless plug. But, you know, my thought was run with a style that you like and then see if, in fact, that style works. I mean, everybody knows me. I'm impulsive. I always got to have the good stuff, you know, the best stuff, usually. And my wife yells at me all the time. For other things, too, but mainly for that. But, you know, I went from, within a matter of a couple weeks, I went from an aim point to an EOTech back to an aim point, and then I got rid of the aim point because I wasn't sure what I wanted. But I was doing it in a closed box range, and on a range. It wasn't until I really got outside the class and using the True Glow, I really like the aim point style. I like that small red dot running right on the rifle. It doesn't add a lot of weight.
Right.
It's, you know, allows you to shoot with both eyes open, which it's not that that's, you know, the only, that True Glow did that, or that the Trijicon RMR was the one to invent that. But I didn't want to spend another $400 to $600 on an aim point until I truly knew I wanted to. And, you know, what I tell guys is, listen, if you're thinking you want to go to a certain style, whether it be a scope or a red dot or an RMR, buy the cheapest knockoff so that you can try the style. And then if it works, then do your research and get the good glass. But to make that point even better, you know, talk about the mayhem drill that we did, and one of the things that not only I had the issue with, and still making me think whether I want to go to a variable scope or not, but talk about what you found out when doing the mayhem drill.
Well, to set it up a little bit, basically there was 9 students, counting the instructor. Pick 3 guns, lay them on the ground, put a variety of malfunctions on them.
Right.
On top of that, there was some horseplay as far as scope covers being closed and stuff like that. So, and not that, and you'd have to not necessarily sprint because we're not all that agile.
Yeah,
but there was some elevate your heart rate. You know, get out to the rifles, pick one up, and pretty much diagnose it on the fly, fix it, and run with it. You had your own mags on you. You'd run up to the line, grab the guns. You know, failure to feed,
failure to extract.
Extract, yeah. Double feeds, brass over, you name it. What happened with one of them was that, you know, I had a couple regular traditional red dots that were no problem. Run the drill, get the malfunction done, do your shots, lay it down, go to the next one. When we got to the one with the optic, the variable scope, yeah, sorry. The way that sets is you're so used to bringing up your rifle and looking for that red dot. When I brought the gun up to my face, which was something else I picked up today, I kept bringing my head in, but bringing the rifle up to me, because it's set for the gentleman that had it, I looked up and all I saw was black. So I figured, I was one of the guys that got hit with the joke, put the lens cover on there, so I'm literally taking my one hand off the gun and I'm up there fiddling around trying to find a lens cap, to realize as I'm doing that, I start seeing
the objective.
The objective, yeah. So, you know, and it was, I could see where that would be a problem, you know, and unless that's something that you trained on, you know, and the way I went into this, the way I continue to think about these rifles is, you know, we're not marching down the street, we're not the next, you know, group of riflemen.
Right.
But when it comes to using it at the house, I want stupid and easy. Yeah. You know, so it's like, pick it up, and I see the dot, and now that I'm learning the tools on how to gauge that distance, make the corrections, because we zeroed in at, what, 36 yards?
Yeah, which is a good point. So, you know, want to jump into what you zero at, because everybody's got an opinion of what you zero at. But
to me, that just, you know, threw me off there.
Oh, about the objective on this, using a scope versus a red dot.
I can see where if somebody's shooting sport, per se, with it, that would be a
like
benefit.
A 3-gun.
Yeah, I can see even that, to me, it's not fast enough, because you still got to play with it. But if it's set up for that guy, then I can see where that would work. Just one of those things that if you have it in the house and anybody in the house picked it up, the red dot to me seems to be the answer.
Right.
That being said, I have an Aimpoint Comp 2 on mine that's mounted upside down.
Yeah, that was interesting finding that out in zeroing.
Yeah. So when you go to dial your adjustments, and regardless if it says this direction's up or down or what have you, if it's on its other axis, it doesn't work real well.
And the interesting thing about that is you know, I know it was a while before we figured that out, and I'd seen the rifle, you know, for some time when you were setting it up even at the range and everything, and I didn't even think about it, not knowing even that setup. I didn't know that it was upside down. I probably would have done the same thing.
Right, and we board sighted it at the shop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that distance, I guess it was more point and click.
Yeah.
And then when we stretched it out to actually make it work, it was started to show its colors that it was wrong. So once we got it squared away, and then learning what we were taught today, you know, the mechanical offset from that close a range is not where your dot's actually pointing, and knowing that when you bring it up to fire and making that adjustment, once you got that squared away, I mean, I think day one, that was probably one of the things of all, you know, if I had to cherry pick, this is what I did today that I really, you know, that helped me a lot. I think that was it right there as far as.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that's an interesting point. Everybody's got their opinion about what do you zero at. You zero at 25 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards. Some guys go to 200 yards. And one of the things that I've been researching was, you know, the Marines use a 36-300, and that's why they do it. 36 yards is equivalent to about the same drop as at 300. And it was nice to hear Don Robinson talk about that without anybody even saying it. I remember, you know, I emailed Scott Hartman at Hydro Print Services, which, by the way, we have another video where I actually hydro dip my left arm because I got tattoos on my right. But if you have any printing that you need done, hydro dip printing, Cerakoting, Scott's great. We'll make sure to put the link and everything up there for you. But I had asked him, hey, can we come in the night before, Friday night, so that I can zero at 36 yards? And, you know, he was like, why are you going to zero at 36 yards? And so I told him that, you know, there's 36 is equal to 300. But even more important was that the 36 yards gave you essentially your holdovers, which I'm still learning. And that is, you know, if you're zeroing at 50, you're going to be an inch or an inch and a half or whatever it is, high or low, you know, going out to 100 and then 200, etc. What was interesting about the 36 yards 300 was that you had from zero, if you zeroed in at 36 yards, from 0 all the way to 300, your total target zone, your kill zone, was about 6 inches, maybe 8, but about 6 inches. And that made it so much easier for me not necessarily having to worry about where exactly I was at the distance. Because, you know, everything again was about 25 yards and in, and you have that mechanical offset, which basically is like height over bore. But as you got further, if you were to go further out, I don't have to worry about, all right, did I zero at 50 and now I'm going to be 2 inches, I need to go above. You know, basically if you shot at the top of the chest area, you had a 6-inch window, you know, and one of the guys, Dave, you know, his thing was aim for the chin at that distance, because he goes, you got a lot more spread. And it was interesting to see how easy it was to acclimate yourself to that. Because once we zeroed at 36, which for me was great because I can't see 100 yards. So when I try to zero in at 100 yards, I know I'm hitting paper, I just don't know where. So there's no dots or lines or anything. It's just a big blob. So at 36 yards, I was able to see the center. I mean, the dot obviously was still small, but I was able to see, and it transferred into our shooting to where all I kept, you know, I remembered was, look, if I aim for the top of the head, I was hitting the ocular area. I mean, to the T right in the middle. If I aimed for the chin, I was getting them dead center in the chest.
So, you know, when we started that, I was doing that, looking for the dot.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, once or twice, Don would come over and he's like, look, you got to remember this.
Raise it up.
And then and we were using reference points today as far as on the target. You're like, see that staple right there, realize that that's the distance different. And about, you know, and you know how it is, the more repetitions you do stuff, the more you start bringing it in. And then finally you're like, oh yeah, and you do it, and every time, you know, you line it up like you're supposed to.
Yeah. So that was definitely something that for me was key. That's what I got out of day one. The other thing too is, and again it goes with, you know, your weapon systems. You know, on my rifle, I run a Gazelle or a Geisley, however you want to call it, Super 3 gun. So I mean, it's a fast trigger. And the dude's first name is John. John Chadden. We were trying to figure out your first name. We kept saying Chad Chadden, but it was John Chadden. You know, I never would have thought paying $250 for a trigger was worth it until I fired his. But what was so interesting today was it is so freaking fast that I had to, like, even Don Robinson had come to me and was like, you need to slow down, because I kept getting him, I was getting him in the A zone, but you could see him drift out because I was just like doing 3 and 4 shots super fast to the point where I really needed to concentrate and slow down. So, you know, again, what is the purpose behind the gear that you have? Am I going to change the trigger out? Hell no, I paid $250 for it, but you know, am I going to change? I loved it because it was so short. There's no slack, no take up. Resets pretty much 0. But I had to remember that to go slower, which was still fast compared to everybody else, but for me, kept it right into the A zone. A couple other things that we were running today that, you know, I want to let everybody know is you start taking these classes. Now, granted, we probably used, how many mags do you think we really used before we got a chance, there was a lull to reload and drink? I mean, do you think?
4,
yeah, maybe 4. Most of the time it was 2 or 3.
Yeah.
If you're going to be taking classes like this, a lot of times, depending on how high of a speed they end up going, you know, you don't want to waste all your time using 1 or 2 mags and going back and loading, because there's a lot of knowledge, not only from the instructor, but the wealth of knowledge from the individuals that are there, whether it's, you know, we had a young kid that is, in his, what, 20s probably?
Yeah.
And this dude can shoot. I mean, he can shoot, and doing some, I know you were talking about some kung fu shit that with the sling and everything, it looked fluid, that we're like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Now, granted, he probably doesn't have any military experience or LE experience, which, does that mean anything? No. But a civilian taking classes and learning this stuff, you know, you get this wealth of knowledge that is just, that alone is worth the price of the class. And then you've got guys who are current, former LE. I think everybody here, there was a couple people that were former military, but all of us are in civilian life now. And that's obviously the gear of the class. But you don't want to lose that instruction. You want to listen to everything. And one of the things that I had purchased a while back, and I told you about it. I mean, it's one of the best things I think I'd ever purchased.
Back to the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, we did take a little bit of the Kool-Aid, but High Speed Gear, HSGI, great company, has several products that are wonderful. I used a few of them today. But one of the things that we ended up purchasing, because if you're going to take a lot of classes, rather than going back and forth and loading up, HSGI's got basically a thigh rig. It's a Chris Costa thigh rig. Same again, Jeff. But, you know, take the Costa part out of it, that's fine, but they together, High Speed Gear and Costa, put this leg rig together, and I mean, it's an ingenious leg rig. HSGI already had what I think is one of the best pouches to use as mag holders, and theirs is called the Tacos. And just their entire system is wonderful. But what's nice about the thigh rig is, you know, you have right off of the bat, the way that they designed the thigh rig is you have two essentially rifle magazines, which can hold as wide as a Steyr AUG, which we saw today, AK-47 mags, M4 mags, you name it. They fit, so you got two of those on either end of the thigh rig. And then you have what's called the double stack Tacos, so some of them will have two rifle mags stacked on each other. These have two pistol ones stacked on the edges on the rifle mags, and then you have a pistol one in the middle. And what's nice about it is if you're taking a combo class, I mean, you've got two, for your, let's say you're running an AR, two AR mags at 30 rounds each with, what did we learn today? About 30 rounds in a PMag?
I love a PMag. I'm a mag pull guy, I understand, I like it, although my sling today. But PMags, 28 rounds is the max. Closed bolt on an AR and a PMag of 30 rounds does not work. It's no bueno.
Yeah, it's just too much tension being put on there that it just won't seat into the mag. You know, I was running 20s in my 30-round mag, so I dumped a little bit more than everybody else. But we saw that. I mean, they just wouldn't click. You try to click it in, you run your first round, and then the mag would just drop out. So, you know, it's nice being able to have both your AR mags as well as your pistol mags right on a thigh rig. And as bigger guys, you know, I don't wear a battle belt. Some guys wear a battle belt. For me, I don't like it. But the height on the thigh rig is at a perfect height for you grabbing when you're doing your mag changes, whether it be for the AR, which I realized today, but definitely for the pistol when I first tested this out. But it was perfect, you know what I mean? You had the ability, you got 3 mags right up here. I ended up running for the first part of the class, also a chest rig, and we'll talk about that. But, you know, HSGI's thigh rig is one of the best rigs ever, I think, if you're definitely going to take multiple classes.
I mean, if you look at the Tacos up close, for a simplistic design as that is, I mean, it's a flap of nylon with a strip of plastic. Literally wraps around top and bottom with bungee cords.
And we're going to take some photos.
And it's ingenious. I mean, and then your double mags in the back, they open up and you can tighten them. That's why you got all these pigtails hanging off here. You can cinch down the tension on this. I've seen them put SIG pistols in here. I say that because that was one they used in the video, but it'll holster a pistol and they were taking the upside down, dumping it out. Like our class, they only calls for what, 50 rounds of pistol?
Yeah.
So during one of our little chats that we were having during a break, they were talking about bolt over malfunctions, and we started talking about Leatherman mud.
Yep.
Halfway through the rest of the day, I was storing that mud in the center pouch because I knew, A, we weren't running pistols today, but 3 mags of 17 rounds, 1 in the gun, 2 here, I was square.
Right.
So, you know, you could use it for other stuff. And like you were saying, the fact that we're spending less time reloading, and back to that as far as gear stuff, get yourself a speed loader. I don't care what brand it is. I got, we got Up Lula, he's got the strip Lula. It takes literally, once you get it figured out, it's like you can sit there and engage, and a lot of stuff that you pick up in the class isn't even the class. Like you're saying, it's like some of the guys just life experiences, past classes, hearing that little tidbit or something. That you might find a nugget that later down your road as far as training that might be an integral part to what you're doing.
Yeah. And again, like you said, it's not always, that nugget may not always be from the instructor. You might get it from other guys within the class. Another thing that I ran for, like I said, the first part of the day was I ran a chest rig. And the reason for that is I figured in taking the class, I didn't want to run up and down loading mags. So, I ordered, again, because I'm impulsive and I got to have it now. And so I paid the extra money, a lot of extra money. Sorry, Jess. to get a high speed gear has an AO small chest rig. It's light, and I'll show you in a minute. You know, some guys will run vests, and I ran a vest once, and as a big guy, a vest doesn't work. And the main thing is you know, you got to have it above your navel is really what they do. And you know, for me, it basically is like a diving board. It's just kind of flip it up, you know, here, and I can't really see. Makes my stomach even bigger than it is. But it wasn't. It just wasn't for me. I had all of the stuff around, which was my mid-drift area. And it wasn't until I got into prone that I realized, yeah, this shit doesn't work for me. And the reason for that is I look like a beached whale, because here I am in prone, I already got a big stomach, and now I'm raised up even more because of the mags, and I'm like that kid in Christmas Story, you know, I can't get up, I can't get up. And I literally was just flopping around. So I was always looking for something that, again, I don't want to spend my time going back and forth loading magazines or getting magazines. You know, what's out there? So High Speed Gear came out with basically, like I said, their small chest rig. I'm not going to show you everything or talk about a lot of the big points, because if you go to High Speed Gear, their website, or even on YouTube, you can actually see the video, and I think the video is perfect for it, to give all of the information. But what's nice about it is you know, we called it basically the man's brassiere, or
Marco's, not the man,
yeah,
Marco's.
My
tactical bro.
Yeah, my tactical bro instead of bra. But basically, it's a chest rig. It just kind of goes in the chest area. You can put it down or high as you want. And again, go to their website and see the video. But what I did was I put the tacos up front. I've got my M4 tacos basically going across. There's 4, and then I have 2 pistols up front. What I learned in the transition drills, which again, I learned a lot. That besides that, like I said, doing the 36-0 and stuff, that transition drill really made me think more about what do I need to do to my sighting, you know, my optics, in order to accommodate for that, because you don't think that you would need it. And as I really started thinking about it, even over dinner, we talk about, you know, in our pistol classes, again, shameless plug for Urban Soldiers Dynamic, you know, when we do our even our Got My CWP Now What, you know, I teach right side, left side barricade, and it's very easy to keep yourself, to basically not be exposed by being able to shoot left-handed on that side of the wall. And those transition drills with the rifle really showed me on the rifle side of it the same thing, but you don't, until you do it, you don't realize it. One of the things I realized with the chest rig was, being a right-handed dominant shooter, as I bring my rifle out of patrol ready, I kept hitting that right side taco. So tomorrow, if I do decide to use it, I'm probably going to take that taco and either double up on the left side or just leave it. But even so, when doing the transition, that whole going across everything to my left side, you know, I don't know if I'll use it tomorrow. And again, you're not going to know that. Is it a bad rig? No. But for the purpose of the class that we're doing, you know, I don't necessarily need all those magazines. I run 2 in my thigh rig, and then like you know, you did and I did, we were talking about that. You put a couple in your back pocket, and you're good, right? So, will I use this? I may. Does it have its place in other classes? Absolutely. So, and again, another shameless plug for UrbanSoldiersDynamic.com. We're a high-speed gear dealer, so we're actually going to be carrying these on our website, so you can buy. We'll actually have them in the store, as well as the same thing for the thigh rigs. And you know, do I drink the Kool-Aid? Yeah, but you know, sometimes I drink it and it tastes like shit, so I spit it out and I don't use it. On some of the other ones, there's a reason why everybody drinks the Kool-Aid. And again, I'm not knocking all the other chest rigs out there. Condor makes great stuff, and we use Condor stuff, which we're also a dealer for them. Travis Haley has the D3 rig. I don't particularly care for the design that they have done and the pouches that they use, but again, it fits a purpose, so it makes sense.
Well, like one of the students, the older guy, he's got an old GI surplus, or it looks to be an old GI surplus chest rig of some sort that's been Frankenstein, which looks like an H-rig harness on it and stuff like that, but I mean, I'm not going to knock it because he's getting it done, you know?
Yeah, and that dude, I told you about it going into the class. We got this guy. He is the most unassuming old man you've ever seen. I mean, he's got bifocals that are thick, and I don't know if you remember, and like, I mean, maybe I'm showing my age, but when you're in like high school and you had the high school science teacher and he had the like regular glasses with the goggle things on the sides. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the dude. That's his eye pro. And then for magazine pouches, he had like when I took the pistol class, he had like camera case with the little Velcro flip up, you know, and wearing a button down collared shirt. And again, he had the what do you call the swamp hats? What are they?
Boonies?
Yeah, he had a boonie, you know, flipped up and stuff. And you look at this guy and you're like, and I thought in the first class, I'm like, dude, this guy probably shouldn't be taking this class. I will tell you, he outshot every single person in that class. And when I told Chop about it, I was like, you know, we saw him this morning, I'm like, that's the guy. You know, and I'm like, you look at him, and his theory behind it was, you have to understand, he says, I need to be on my A game because I look like a guy that someone wants to pick on. It'd be an easy pickings. But when you find out the classes this guy's taken and what his background is, I would not want to F with him at all. Mm-hmm. And I think you saw him shooting today, like being near him. This dude can shoot and he can fight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when we did the mayhem drill, I was surprised to see the sprig that he had when he went up to the thing. I really didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, and again, in taking all these classes, and one thing I came away with, another thing I came away with today is, everybody's been asking us to do, we do the pistol classes, a dynamic pistol, but everybody's been asking us to do a carbine class, and, you know, I've been looking into it, trying to get it fine-tuned and know exactly what we want to do. But the thing I saw today was, you know, doing a carbine class, again, it's whether it's an advanced, intermediate, call it what you want, it's all the same, it's fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think what we're going to end up doing is we're going to announce a carbine class very quickly, like probably something within the next 30 to 45 days. We'll announce it obviously a lot earlier, but I think I'd like to have it where the date is within the next 30 to 45 days. So, I want to ask you, being that, you know, it's your first carbine class, and two things. One, did you come away with anything that you didn't think you would? Like something that really stands out that maybe you thought, well, you know, I'm probably not going to get this or deal with that, and you did. And then I want you to give me a little bit about how different this class was and is versus the front sight experience that you've had. Not saying that one is better than the other, but what was the main difference?
I think taken away as far as what I learned today. Well, I mean, you know me. I'm humble as far as I'll tell somebody if I don't know something. I was intimidated in that regard going out there because I don't know rifle. I mean, I know about the rifle. I mean, people have asked me about them in the store, and I can tell you whatever. To know it, using it, I was blank. And, you know, not to give them excuses, but to explain any stumblings I was having in the beginning, I told them, I said, look, I've never ran it. I've shot it here and there, but I've never ran it. So, you know, kind of just give him a little heads up. You know, and he's like, no problem, we got to take care of it. Like, we found out about the scope or the optic. I mean, I kind of took it then, and I was like, hey, I've never done this before. But by the end of the day, I'm still a little hazy on malfunction drills because there's so many different things going on.
Right.
And same thing with pistols. I mean, nobody's perfect. But, yeah, there's a set amount of confidence about sighting it in now, like if I had to do it again, realizing what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do. And one of the other fears that I had is I'm right-handed, left-eye dominant. I wasn't sure how easy that was going to be a workaround with something like a red dot. Pistol, obviously, it's easier. Like I've told a million times in the shop, I bring it over. I can work with it that way. Rifle's a little bit different. You only put the cheek so far on the gun.
Right.
And then telling him that when we were doing targets one time, you know, he's like, oh, no problem. You know, we'll get through that, and I'll show you, you know. I think that was one of the main things as far as what I learned today. And then just being able to run through the drills, and there wasn't that, not necessarily peer pressure, but the pressure of feeling like you haven't walked away with something, you're holding everybody up kind of thing. Never felt that at all. So at the end of the day, it's like you come back, yeah, we're tired, The other thing, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Yeah.
We look like raccoons, but we're like beet red.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, I mean that, I guess right now, and it's still, you got to process it. There's a lot between that going on, being tired, and, you know, you got to think everything through.
And be ready to take what we learned today
And apply it tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, that was something he kept telling us, basically, with, you know, when you're saying the fundamentals, but better. Everything we did today, as he was getting an assessment on us before we started getting a little bit more dynamic, he kept telling us, hey, look, tomorrow we're going to add this, and we're going to do some lateral moving, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. One thing that I didn't know boarding house rules. I didn't really get it until we started doing it, and I'm like, okay, everybody gets fed, and then all of a sudden it clicked, you know, and I was like, okay. And that procession of shooting, and why you would, you know, say the single shot on the one, two on the other, and then go back, or not two, not to give it a number, but, you know, until he's down to the next guy, and applying that, and then the stops, moving the rifle back and forth, and the difference between, you know, if you're at 25 yards and it's like from target to target, when you're all the way up close, you literally got to make a drastic move, make sure you're not sweeping too far. That was like day one stuff that, as we're rambling it off, that comes to me quickest.
Tell me what you think the major difference between the style of instruction, because, and if you can say the style of the class, even though I think it might be a little hard because one, obviously a front sight being a pistol dominated class and this being a sole rifle, but talk about just the style of instruction, front sight versus SI.
Just for starters, this one's more intimate, if you could use that in this realm of stuff.
Yeah, we only had how many shooters?
There's 8 of us and the instructor. I believe, and if I'm wrong, I'll be way wrong. I think there was 41 or 40 people in my 4-day pistol class. So that was 20 or 21 on the line at the time. The instructor to student ratio was, you know, obviously compensated for that. I believe we had 3 instructors out there. There's obviously a syllabus of some sort. Same with SI. So they would tend to keep everybody on that syllabus. There were some folks in my particular class that were not getting it, or they had different equipment that wasn't suited for the class. Not saying that you can't, but like, you know, I did that 4-day defensive pistol class. There's some people that showed up with revolvers. Some of those drills you just can't translate into a wheel gun.
Right.
And then like one of your classes, you know, some people show up with 1911s.
Yes.
And there's function issues, mechanical issues, what have you. With this one, with SI, like I said, there's the smaller count, the one instructor. One of the things that kind of sold me on doing this was your experience. Well, it started with Dan, because he was the first one that we knew that was doing a lot of these things, as far as with SI. And then when you had done it, and I got a lot of respect for the guys that I work with and the guys that are my friends, and Dan, just listening to them talk. And then you start realizing that it's part of their curriculum. Like, you hear a lot of terminology that everybody's using that's the same.
Right.
And you start, and it's not necessarily a Kool-Aid or like a zombie mentality of like where everybody's regurgitating the same thing, but it's meant and it makes sense. And then once you start doing it, you're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So chances are that when I walk away from this, there'll be people saying, well, he's all over the SI thing, you know what I mean? But it seems to be a good base of, you know, what, as far as instruction, I guess. It's 2 days. I saw the benefit of having 4 days out there. Now, granted, it gets more expensive because, you know, you're out of town or what have you.
Sure.
But in doing that, they went through fundamentals out there, and then you added some other stuff. One of the great things that I did love about it when I did that one out there was, I think day 3, they had like a shoot house set up, and it gave you like pine doors, some stuff that you could translate back into your house.
Right.
Because for me, you know, a lot of people are not into this, and they look from the outside and they're looking in. Either what are you afraid of? Because I know everybody's heard that question.
Yeah.
And I promptly tell them nothing. And the fact that I'm not a soldier, I'm not. This isn't Red Dawn, you know. And I don't. Yeah, we like that stuff. It's entertaining because it removes us from the other side of it that we do, and we all enjoy action flicks. We're all kids, you know. I mean, grown up kids. But you're like-minded people, and especially like in this group, like he said, there's a 20-something-year-old, you know, your 30s, and I think the next group, those guys are, if not in their early 50s, somewhere there, you know, and everybody's got the same idea. Everybody's there for the same reason, and you can tell there's not anybody there, you know, just because this is step 2 in the SI curriculum.
Right.
You know what I mean? That everybody's wanting to learn something. I mean, the one guy's he's changing out 2 or 3 different rifles. I mean, I think he got a Korean, their imitation of an M4.
Yeah.
Had the bullpup that Gabe was talking about, I think, on YouTube a week or 2 ago. The AUG.
Yep.
And going through stuff like that. I haven't used my 300 that we built in the shop, which everybody's probably seen those hanging on the wall, which is 8-inch. I did a little bit of it after the fact at the end of the day just to get it out there and shoot it some. But yeah, I mean, it's apples and oranges, and it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why, like I said, it's probably hard because you've got, you know, a pistol dominant and a rifle dominant. You know, but what's nice about it is, at least for me, is all of the classes, you know, again, whether it's Travis Haley, Chris Costa, I won't do the click, or the Stoney Smith.
Stephen Pinot.
Yeah, Pinot. You know, say what you want, like I said, about SI or Jaeger or Randy Kane, Cumberland Tactics. I mean, they all pretty much are civilian style, you know, type thought.
I mean, we could easily be doing 100 yards with a rifle. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
At 100 yards, not only the judge, the jury, and everybody else is going to be like, why didn't you just walk away?
Yeah, and again, not to say that you shouldn't learn how to do that.
Right.
But it's one of those, like, realistically, what are you going to you know, get into? And, you know, and things that we think about, like, you know, we talk about the AR pistol, I think is a great truck gun. And then if you're going to run an AR pistol, you need to know how to run an AR pistol, you know, and...
I mean, like you just said, even truck gun. I mean, that's a whole... That's a 3-hour video on it. Is it needed? If it's not needed, is it a rational thing? Is it not? I mean, you know what I mean? Daily life dictates different things for everybody, and, you know, circumstances and environment, what have you. So, I mean...
Absolutely. Well, like I said, this is the end of the first day. So tomorrow, depending on what happens, because, you know, we got to check out the hotel and all, we're going to try to do it right after the class. Whether it be, if we're still standing, my back is all tight. And that's the other thing, too. I want people to understand that, you know, whether you're 20-something, 30-somethings, in the 50s and 60s, you know, you get all ages in classes like this. You know, I'm 30, I don't know what, 35, 36? Can't even remember my own age. But my back is tight, my knees are shot, my ankles are pretty much done. You know, and here's the funny part. We haven't really gotten into the running and gunning yet. So, you know, the warm-up here... Yeah, but again, where do we live? We live in Florida. Is it hot? Pretty much almost all year.
It's not going to change.
No, it's not. And you need to know how to run your equipment in the same environment you're going to be in. But all the classes, it doesn't matter the age that you are. You still got to know how to run your equipment for you. And I'll be interested to find out tomorrow, taking the fundamentals that we've done, and again, not learned because we've already learned them, but taking the fundamentals that we are reprocessing and adding in the speed and the movement, and to see how much more dynamic can it get, and then what does that translate into the shooting. Right. Because, I mean, you get a full-size chest area or the torso targets, you know, IDPA, IPSC, and your goal is to hit the A zone all the time. And, you know, can I run and still hit somewhat of the cardboard? Yeah, I can. But is it going to be effective? Is it going to take down the person that I need to take down?
And you keep saying and thinking, the zone, we're not knocking X's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, like stuff I've learned from you and Dan with the pistol thing. I mean, like the whole RMR idea. You're working for a work area. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, it's fun to be able to knock the center out and, you know, the bullseye and the bravado and the bragging and all that stuff, but you're looking for effectiveness.
Exactly.
You know, and that's not perfection, that's a grosser area, you know? So when you keep saying zone, that's one of the things people got to realize, like, oh yeah, but I need to be able to, you know, like I'm looking at the people on the door from while we're sitting here. I said, there's no way you're shooting that hole out of there, but do you need to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if that was a dude coming in the door, I got all this. I don't need just that.
Exactly. So hopefully we'll be able to do a video tomorrow after the second day of the class, and we'll be posting this up to YouTube. Like I said, we're gonna try to get all the links of everything we had talked about into the description. I'm not that technically savvy, so it might take me a couple days, but we'll at least get it up there. And, you know, leave your comments, questions, everything on there. We're more than happy to answer. And like I said, if you go on YouTube, look for Family Firearms, all one word. Go to our urbansoldiersdynamic.com if you want to learn about our dynamic courses. We will be posting up a carbine course, a basic carbine course. It'll most likely be a 2-day locally in Lithia. And you can also look at all the pistol classes. So
other classes too, I mean.
Yeah, and other classes.
Medic classes.
Yep, medic classes, which we're going to try to have another one fairly soon. So we appreciate, you know, you guys watching, and we're going to try to keep videos like this up on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, whether it be about classes that we're going in or different gear that we believe makes sense, that might make sense for you. So again, thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll have another video for the second day of our SI class. All right, thanks.